Hey, good morning from Bedford, a community in Raleigh, North Carolina. One of my favorite, if you will, communities. Um, I actually stopped here because I'd actually um, came back from the dump. I was dropping off a sink. Um, a lot of these videos start off that way. And I can assure you I'm about to go to the dump not long after this because there's another sink that I'll be dropping off. But anyway, I was thinking of one of my uncles. I have an uncle who has a birthday today. He is now 76 years old. Um, my mother is, I believe, 71. We'll be going on 72 here in November. But at any rate, and he was very extroverted. I'm extremely introverted. Actually, not only introverted, but very shy. Um, he's very extroverted, very relatable, kind of pulls you in, if you will, to a conversation. Um, and I was thinking, there's so many stories. There's the Thunderbird story, and maybe I'll tell you the Thunderbird story. That's a restaurant right off of the, I believe, I-95 um, in Florence, if you will, South Carolina. Um, and but we can talk about that one later. Um, the story that I would like to talk to you about was a much, um, if you will, different story. Um, now, my uncle, and just a full disclosure, I grew up quite poor. I'm doing this from a phone, correct? A smartphone, but a phone. I actually grew up pretty much without a phone. It was interesting because we put out the paperwork, and I know there was a phone in the house, but we never used phones. So technically, for years, the phone was disconnected. But at any rate, and that's not the only thing I grew up with. I remember for like a year or two, actually, we actually grew up without a refrigerator. Um, so Marie's definitely a leg up on me. But anyway, I grew up, if you will, without a phone. So my uncle loved to visit, his brothers and sisters, um, and and so he would come by. Now every time he came by, it was clearly a surprise, unless he wrote. Um, but generally he didn't write; he just drove. And so he drives there. Now he's coming into the city. And once again, I just believe that, if you come to somebody's house, you should, I guess you can't call, at least knock, don't just, start jimmying open the door. I know I'm big on to that, but anyway. Um, so obviously he, in this case, almost has no choice but to knock, right? I mean, we don't have a phone. Um, and so he knocks, knock, 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 knock. Well, mama does what anyone else would do and ask, who is it? We live in a pretty dangerous neighborhood. Don't open the door. Who is it, right? And my uncle says, child, you know who this is. Or you know who this is, child. Usually it was one of those two. And we had quite a few of those. All right. This had been happening for years, correct? All right. Well, let's fast forward now. And I believe the year was 1993. Perhaps late 1992. But it was, I know it was my senior year of high school. I went to Harry P. Harding High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. Um, and well, it was a pretty bad time for us. I mean, we were already poor, but boy, I believe that whole week we were struggling. I mean, there was no food in the house that I can remember. There was something. There was band candy. Now, I'm calling it band candy because the director of our orchestra was also the director, if you will, of the band, and I believe the band and the orchestra sold this candy. Now, you're wondering, what does the orchestra have to do with this? From the fifth grade, matter of fact, actually, maybe my first year of college, but certainly the fifth grade through high school, I played in the orchestra. My first year, I was technically a music major, but I don't. First part of the second year, a music major, but I never played in the orchestra. But my first, but from fifth grade to 12th grade, I played in the orchestra. From fifth grade to eighth grade, I played violin. That it would be second violin and third violin. Third violin, just in case you're wondering, is basically the same part as a viola. I actually have a friend who actually watches this sometimes, who I believe played viola. So actually, I believe we played the same part for a while, even though we were on different instruments. 9th through 12th, I played. There's a couple names by this. It's known as a stand-up bass, a contrabass, a double bass. Sometimes you hear it called a bass violin, although technically that's not correct. That's a misnomer. It's actually a bass viol. If you want me to explain the difference, I guess you can DM me or bring in the comments. I guess I don't want to labor you too much with that difference between something from the violin family and the viol family. Anyway, point is, we were selling candy. That was the real point, right? I mean, you don't need, anyway. And so that candy was still there. Now, understand, we tried to unload this candy off on the people who ordered it, but for whatever reason, we weren't getting any takers. Nobody really responded. So what happened was, there was nothing else in the house, so, we started unloading on this candy. I believe it was a Sunday. And we started unloading, we started eating that candy because we had no other food. Now, understand that we did pay for this candy. I don't know how we paid for it because we are poor, but we did pay for this candy. After we ate it. Not immediately after, but after we ate it. Now, I'll tell you one thing, though. I'm saying that we didn't pay immediately, but in one way, I did pay immediately. You ever heard of Montezuma's Revenge? Well, I don't know. Maybe this was, Mr. Hershey's revenge or something. I don't know. So after snacking on this chocolate, I started to realize that this chocolate's fighting back with all of this, umbered glory, right? and so, I wind up going to the baño, correct? Now, don't worry, I'm not going to go into too many details about what all went in there. Just understand that the DLB was struggling mightily. I mean, I was, and matter of fact, by this time, I'm almost reduced to tears, almost saying, I'm sorry that I ate your chocolate, and please forgive me. I'm a poor black man in the South right now, and we just had no other, we had no other recourse, is what I'm thinking to myself. Well, all of a sudden, bam, 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 bam. Who is it? Child, you know who this is. Well, my uncle has come, if you will, to Charlotte. Now, I understand he drove what would probably be an hour and a half, I believe, from Hartsville, South Carolina, where most of my family's from, and the DNA test proves it. It's amazing what a little bit of saliva will tell about you. Apparently, I'm all Hartsville and PD, just about, the PD region. So anyway, he comes in, and and I'm struggling on the. Anyway, point is, he comes in, and he actually winds up, I think, giving us, winds up taking us to lunch, if I'm not mistaken. And also, he gives us a little money. I will tell you that, my uncles, I just don't, I guess I should figure out a better way to top them because I'm I'm nowhere in their stratosphere as far as uncles. They're much better uncles than I have been. But but at any rate, man, I mean, he could not have come at a better time. And it almost makes me forget the fact that he tried to embarrass me at that daggum Thunderbird. Like I said, maybe I'll tell you the Thunderbird story later. At any rate, thank you very much for listening. If you did, you know, maybe some people listen to this, maybe some people won't. I don't know. But if you did, I'm so appreciative of it. Sometimes I feel like I'm really playing them for me. I can't tell you how much I enjoy these videos, and if no one was listening to them or watching them, I probably would have them anyway, because I just I don't know, it's just nice to release the stories out. Anyway, thank you so much and take care. Bye bye. Have a good morning.